are back with something new. I am one of your hosts, Amber Solaris, and welcome to the first ever season of Reign of Pain, where we dive into the edges of desire, thrill of endurance, with the art of sadomasochism and pain-related play. So, this is your space to explore, educate, power. Whether you're a seasoned player or you're just beginning your journey into this form of play. So pain play isn't just about sensation, it's about that sense of trust and connection and really transformation. Every episode here will shed light on different techniques, different explorations, journey. Of course, we'll talk about the safety stuff and the inner worlds of people who embrace the sting, the thud, and the different sensations while they surrender to seeing stars. So step into the night and embrace the unknown and find your own version of the Reign of Pain. And of course, as always, a little bit of a content warning. This is listener discretion advised. There is a content warning for potentially distressing topics. We will be discussing a multitude of adult-only topics here, and so you are encouraged to consider your own capacity before continuing.
Hey, amazing pain lovers! You're back with Miss Kitten and season 4. We're really grateful that you stayed and made it this far in the journey with us. Today, I have an incredible human all the way across the seas in my dungeon. Welcome, Hippo, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. And you are coming to chat to us a little bit about an interesting subject today. We're going to talk a little bit about self-play and how that relates to pain play. And you're going to share a bit of your experience. So thank you for this opportunity. And and the whole of Reign of Blood team is very excited to have you on board with us. And we look forward to your class for Reign of Pain and to this conversation.
I'm excited.
You shouldn't hear, sorry. You can hear the snoring behind me too. Just stop the dog out. So can you share a little bit with my listeners and with yourself on how you went from being a normal vanilla human in the Muggle world to finding BDSM and what that journey looked like a little bit for you?
Yeah, so I actually found the kink world through a Tinder date. It was to this day the last Tinder date that I've been on. It was someone in our local community. They make amazing kink furniture and toys, and I met them. We connected well, and then they invited me to a slosh, and then a party, and then a bunch, and then I just kind of fell into the fold and really felt like I found my people, which I feel like a lot of people can relate with. Like, oh, I really felt like I belonged there, and I still do. So it was a very quick and like swift entry into the kink world. I think my masochism definitely started earlier in life. As early as like 10, 11 years old, I loved weightlifting and endurance sports and really pushing my body through that pain to find growth. So I feel like that's where my masochism probably started. And so I very quickly adored impact. I thought that was just so fun and cathartic and a great release. Yeah, and I love impact. I'm more sharps focused at the moment, but impact is near and dear to me for sure.
I love that. And yeah, I always look back at my journey and think like I think I've been a masochist for a very long time. I think I only
Yes.
realized it quite late in life, but I think like everything I choose to do is painful, whether it's emotionally painful or physically painful. Like it always seems to be my first choice. Will this hurt me? Great, I'm in. Yeah, so
Yes.
tell me a little bit about the impact for you and your first experience with impact.
So my first experience with impact was the person that I had went on the date with. We're still great friends. And I remember there was lots of giggling. I'm definitely a highly sensitive person, so I have a very strong reaction to things. There were a lot of laughing and crying. And I remember they said this level of endurance was not expected, but it's appreciated. So apparently, from the very beginning, it was noticed that I guess I feel like it's very relative, but so to speak, a heavy bottom that they were surprised at, oh wow, this is a lot for your first scene. And I've kind of continued that trend throughout my play over the last couple of years.
Do you like all types of impact? Is there a specific type of impact that ticks your boxes more than others?
I love receiving spanking and I love paddles, and I would say I like thuddy more than stingy. For me, a lot of stingy implements, especially in rapid succession, kind of drains my masochist battery pretty quickly. Um, so yeah, but I love spanking and hands and punching. Um, that really gets my goat.
Tell me a little bit about the punching. Punching is not something I see at all in my community, and I watched a class yesterday from the Dutch team, and they made vampire gloves, and then they
Mm.
put vampire studs on the top of the gloves, and then
Oh,
they punched each other five. And I didn't expect to find that as hot as I did, but it was amazing. And I was like,
that sounds
I
amazing.
I've just been punching my own hand into my other hand the whole day and thinking about punching. So yeah, tell me a little bit about punching and how did that come about and what is it like for you and give us some tips.
Um, So I mostly for punching, I mostly am on the receiving end with a play partner. And for a while, I actually was not sure if that was something that I wanted to do because it felt more violent, I suppose, than spanking or using an implement. Um, but with a play partner, they're like, how do you feel about this? I'm like, well, let's try it. And I loved it. It is so thuddy and it feels like that sensation travels so deeply at that point of contact. And then it got to the point where the kind of, I guess, violent essence of it is what really attracted me to it in terms of being kind of a punching bag plaything, something to just be hit repeatedly. It helped me identify with that headspace of I am just here to be a canvas for you. So yeah, I really enjoy it.
I am super excited to give it a try. I think I need to practice a bit because I don't think don't have the skills to actually hit anybody else, but I'm gonna give it a damn good shot next weekend. I have it all
Good.
plotted
I
out.
hope it's very fun.
It sounds very fun, and I tell you, those gloves with those gloves on, it just looks amazing. It looked like the best fun ever. Is all of your play partner play? Is there moments in your playing journey where you've played on your own?
Yeah. So most of my play was partner play until about I would say a year and a half ago. I was playing with someone and they had given me a task for some self-caning, and that was when that light bulb really went off of, oh, I really can just play on my own. I don't need to work around someone's schedule or availability or capacity to be able to participate in play. If my headspace is good and I feel like I'm in an emotionally and mentally solid place, I can just enjoy play with me, myself, and I. And then it just continued to go from there and increase in caning and paddling. And then I found sharps and staples. And then it was like, oh, I really can be the artist and the canvas with myself.
Um, Self-caning, how does that work? That sounds like a
It is.
silly question, but it's, like I've caned somebody and somebody's caned me.
Mhm.
And I've self-stabbed with shops, but impact play on my own is not something that I've even considered. So you're opening a whole bunch of doors here. Can you feel the draft? Because it's coming.
Yeah,
Yeah, so please tell me a little bit more about it, if you will.
it is a logistical challenge, especially depending on um the type of cane you're using and like the length. That can be challenging. The first few times I did it on my thighs with rattan, which had more flex, and I could essentially kind of almost use it like a Sadie stick and kind of flex it to get the snap action for impact instead of like a long-handed whack. Um, so yeah, I've actually caned my own tits, which was very logistically difficult. But same process there. I just used a shorter piece of rattan to kind of bend it back and then release to get that impact and to get those cane marks.
Amazing. I'm just adding it to my bucket list quietly while I'm talking to you. And you talk a lot about capacity. You mentioned it a couple of times in conversation. Obviously, when you are dealing with another person, there's somebody that can regulate the play with you. So you're not
Hmm.
solely responsible for it. When I find with self play that there is, I need to be a little bit more self-aware, simply from the
Hmm.
fact that if I'm in the wrong headspace for it, it can equal self-harm instead of self-care. Can
Hmm.
you talk to me a little bit about that and how you find that in your journey?
Yes, so I agree that it is really important for me to ensure that I am in a good headspace. If I have a lot of negative outside stressors, or I'm just going through some difficult things to process and I'm feeling frustrated or irritated, and if I'm not confident that I'll have the patience and grace that I need for myself, then at that time I wouldn't play. And I've actually had times where I maybe had an evening on my calendar to open up my kit and do some fun self stabs. And that time came, I get home from work and I just am starting to doubt if I'm going to be patient enough with myself and if I have that bandwidth for that emotionally and physically. And there's been times where I just didn't. And I said, you know what? I'm going to reschedule with myself. I feel like if this didn't go well, I would be frustrated with myself and I would be disappointed. And if I did power through, then it would be using that play in a negative way instead of a more positive, celebratory self care way.
Amazing. And the self play for me, and mine is born out of the fact that I think we just don't have the tops available. So, it's interesting to hear you talk about other kinks because I've actually never related it to something like impact um, or anything else for that matter besides sharps. But in our sharps community here, there just isn't a top I can phone, whether they have capacity or not.
Yeah.
They generally just don't exist. So it was one of those
Hmm.
things of, I really love the kink. I love the feeling of that type of pain. Um, and being able to do it for myself meant that I actually got to experience it without. So that was the sort of birth of the self-stab for me, more out of necessity than anything else.
Hmm.
But having found that, it's very cathartic. And what it has done is it's been incredibly empowering from a self-care point of view because I've become so much more aware of where I am in order to be able to do the self-play. I think more so than if I'm relying on a partner. to aid the situation and support me. And it's definitely made me show up more ethically in other forms of play because I'm so aware of where I'm at. And I think that's a super cool realization.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I also had some of the same challenges in terms of just not having a top to do some of these things with, or maybe not having someone who, wanted to do sutures or kind of more edge play things with sharps, I suppose, that I also didn't have someone who I could schedule something with. There are not a lot of, there's really, I would say a few within about an hour and, a few hours radius, and I'm one of them. So at that point, it's like, well, I really have myself to learn how to do these things and then also practice on. It's really me. So that means practicing on me. So
Right, it's like I'll be the bottom and I'll be the top. And what's super
yes.
interesting though is it totally I'm fascinated about the impact play because the one thing about impact is I use it as an escape a little bit because I get so it's not subspace is the wrong word for it, but I get in the zone so much with it. And I've handed myself over and my thoughts over to the top. And I
Hmm.
know that with sharps, like it's totally different bottoming for something as it is self-stabbing yourself.
Hmm.
It's a totally different headspace. And is that the same for impact?
I would say self-impact is more in line with self sharps for me because I also relate to what you said in terms of completely letting go, giving up that control, and really kind of slipping in to this kind of floaty headspace as in terms of bottoming for impact. But I would say doing self play for impact feels a lot like doing self play for sharps, where I'm not in this kind of floaty, glowy, happy-go-lucky headspace. I'm very focused and I'm very hyper aware of exactly what I'm doing and what's happening and just every sensation in every second. I'm very much like present fully in my body. Whereas if I'm bottoming for something like that, I am off somewhere else. My body is here, but I'm definitely enjoying just kind of floating and letting go completely. And that's definitely not the case in terms of self-play. I am fully here and I am fully aware of how I'm feeling and how everything is affecting me and what I'm doing. So I would say it's very different.
It's interesting to listen to you talk about it. And it's just sort of dawned on me that I think that's probably why I look for more capacity in sort of self-play. Number one, I think there's a huge amount of stigma about it, so I am more careful about engaging in it than I am in other play. And simply because it took a while to be brave enough to show up in the community admitting that I was doing it. There was
Mm,
a fair amount of stigma attached to in my own community, close community. Fed life was more fed life was more accepting. But so I had to be absolutely certain that my intent was 100% valid in this situation. That has got easier, but I think everything gets easier with practice.
mhm.
And being able to trust myself and my self-awareness. Um, 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 yeah, I think for me in the beginning with the self-play, I had to show up with very clear intent because the stigma attached to it. And the stigma in my community was self-piercing automatically falls back on self-harm. And
Mm,
I think in the beginning, I was so incredibly aware of the stigma attached to what I was doing that I strived a lot more for perfection than I did for actual intent in the play. I was
Mm.
more worried that the piece looked beautiful than what it felt like. And as I've kind of got braver in my journey, it's not so much about being perfect, but being personal. And I think that that's a lot to do with the shame around, or the stigma around the shame of self-play, and the judgment that comes from other people's associations with the experience. So how do we break that down for other people? How do we make it more acceptable, to be able to enjoy time with yourself, whether that time be masturbating in the corner, which I'm sure every person does, or self-piercing or self-impact or something like that? How do we make that more acceptable, generally, for other people to be able to show up without the pressure of perfection?
Yeah, I love that point. And I relate to that as well, that I definitely felt like I needed to have very well measured, well executed, clear artistic vision, um, for it to be like, look, I'm doing this, but this is why. It's because art. But also I felt like the art had to be so clean and neat and tidy and consistent, and my technique had to be really good, because if it's messy, if it's chaotic, then that's bad, or it means I'm not doing it well or something like that. And I do agree that there is a lot of shame around that, because that line is can be so fine, at least for many people, between I am celebrating myself and I'm exercising creativity and freedom and autonomy, versus I'm punishing myself, or I'm using this as just an emotional, physical escape. I don't want to be in reality, so I'm going to just check out and do this, which can also, I feel like, be used in a positive, cathartic way. But I feel like just making space for people and continuing to have conversations like we're having right now, and understanding and listening to people, is a step towards making it more acceptable and reducing some of that stigma, and making sure that people understand how to gain that self-awareness, so that they know if they're using it in an unhealthy or healthy way. Because I feel like that's the most important. I know you've mentioned intent a lot, and that's something that I heavily focus on, especially as a top, as a bottom, playing with myself, top and bottom. The intention of the scene is so critical. I feel like it's more important than anything else, at least as the starting point, and where everything really needs to align. If the intent is not the same for both people, then I feel like there's an incompatibility there. And especially with myself, sometimes I'm like, this intention is feeling like, sometimes I feel like I need to prove something. So I need to do a really big thing, or I need to do a technically complex thing, because I feel I'm starting to doubt myself. I feel like I have something to prove. And that is also like not a positive intention for me personally. So I feel like
Yeah,
encouraging positive intention, communication, self-awareness, and just being open and vulnerable and understanding of each other.
love you falling back to that intent thing, and I think it goes a little bit, for me, in the sense that, why am I creating this? Is it because I want to
Mhm.
put the post on FetLife, or is it because I want to sit here and enjoy the sensation? Because they're two
Yes.
totally different things. And then, recently for me, a lot of my self-stabs have just been for me, and it's been enough. And I'm finding that really beautiful. Like, they've just been personal. And they haven't been perfect, they've been chaos. They're total chaos. But they've just been for me, and they've been enough. And that's been quite special, because it wasn't like that in the beginning of my journey at all. So I'm quite enjoying that. I'm quite sure that'll change too at some point. But yeah, I've really enjoyed just spending the time with myself, And I kind of think my brain is all over the place today. I really take my hat off for you dealing with me at 5 o'clock in the morning. You got a crazy kitten today. Um, I really just think that we need to aim for personal and not
Mm-hmm.
perfect in what we're doing. And the other thing for me is I need to be able to show my partner that I live with. He doesn't do any shops, but I need to be able to show my partner. So my tester is, will I show him the picture when he comes in the door? Um,
Mm,
because if I won't show him the picture, that generally means that I was in the wrong frame of mind when I was doing it. And that I don't want to share it. I don't have to share it on Facebook or share it on Instagram or anything like that. But if I don't want to share it with my partner and tell him what I'm doing, I'm generally doing it for the wrong reason. So that has been a bit of a wake-up call for me, like, you know, are you happy to tell him that you're going to do this again? You know, he doesn't really care. We have a really cool household that keeps coming home and the girls are all being tattooed. And I think he's walked in like 4 days in a row and there's just tattoo stuff everywhere and ink and he just shakes his head and carries on to the kitchen. So it's not that he would have a problem with it, but it's that, am I proud to own it in front of him? Because he really matters to me. So that has been quite interesting, because I think self-harm for me, when it becomes self-harm, it's something that I want to hide. So
yep,
as soon as
I
I want to,
completely agree.
yeah, as soon as I want to hide it, and it's a catch-22, because I want it to be so good that I can show everybody, but I don't want it to be only about being so good that I'm showing everybody. It needs to be personal, and I need to get over the idea that it has to be perfect. Otherwise the pressure just becomes enormous. And I think the sharps is one of the few kinks where there is this enormous pressure to show up perfectly. And I think the reality is, and I think you'll maybe understand because you top and you bottom. And when you're bottoming for sharps, you don't really give a shit what it looks like.
No.
Hey, it's the most amazing feeling on the planet.
Yep.
It's like, who cares? And the
Yeah.
top standing over you going, oh, you know, that needle's a little bit skew, and you're just like, ah. And the top's like, oh, I'm so sorry, it's not perfect. And you're like, I don't really care. Like, I'm so happy right
Exactly.
now. And I think that is just a good reminder that it has to be about the experience of what's happening under, you know, within you more than the final product. Um, yeah, I think anybody who is a sadomasochist on tops and bottoms has a much easier time. I think people that only top put a lot of pressure on themselves because they don't get to enjoy how good the frigging experience is and appreciate it from an experience point of view. So I always recommend that even if you just bottom a little bit, you do try everything at least once or twice so that you understand why your bottoms are coming back for more.
I agree. And that's a really funny point about like I bottomed recently for sharps and the top was like, oh, this thing on this side is inconsistent. And I'm like, I don't care. No one's gonna notice this. I didn't notice it till you pointed it out. And this is great. Are you kidding me? Like I laid here and you stabbed me. This was amazing. But it's
Right?
funny because also as a top, I have that same perspective of, oh, this could have, I can't help but kind of be my own critic. But it's funny because I know that the bottom is thinking what I think when I bottom, which is this is great that you're taking the time and you're carrying the burden of being the person doing this. And that is so special. Thank you so much. That's how I feel as a bottom. And so it's funny when I critique myself as a top because I'm like, they're thinking what I think when I bottom. So I just need to remind myself of that.
Yeah, I think there's a good lesson there is just remind yourself that it just feels fantastic. I think the worst part about bottoming for me is when it's over. Like that's the only thing I'm ever like, oh,
I agree.
we only have 3 needles left. Really, Huey? Can't we have some more? Oh dear. I've loved chatting to you, and I can't wait to have you back for Reign of Pain. We're really excited, and we're really excited to see what you're bringing us. If people want to reach out to you, how do they do that?
They can reach out to me on FetLife.
Awesome.
Hippopotamyass is my handle.
I will drop it in the show notes so people can find it through that. Um, and yeah, thank you for your time. And I know it's super bright and early day, and you've put up with a very ditzy kitten today, so I appreciate you.
My pleasure.
And all my listeners, I love you guys lots. Thanks for sticking with us for 4 seasons. We are super proud of our community, and we're super excited to bring you Reign of Pain. We have some incredible educators coming to our platform to share their authentic journey and their stories with you. So we hope that they tick your boxes. Thanks for all the messages you send me. I love hearing from you. I love it when you reach out, and to keep it coming. If you haven't got your Reign of Pain tickets, I don't know what you're doing with your lives, guys. This is really like early grade is happening. Do yourself an early solid and get yourself a good Christmas present. Help fight those holiday blues by knowing you've got a Reign of Pain ticket in the bank. And if you need a scholarship, reach out. We're really happy to help you guys. We have a full BIPOC scholarship available for this event as well. So please don't hesitate to send us a DM. And then from my dungeon in a very hot and sunny Cape Town, South Africa, lots of love and kitten kisses.